Bleeding purple and gold. From the heart of Los Angeles, this is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Welcome to today's show. As always, we are powered by CLNS Media and LakersNation.com, your one-stop shop for all things Lakers. Today's show is brought to you by Stamps.com. Head over to Stamps.com and enter the promo code NATION to get a 4-week trial plus postage and a digital scale with no long-term commitment. We'll talk a little bit more about it later in the show. The Lakers season is winding down right now. We're getting to these final few games, and there's still a lot to dissect, a lot to go over. So I've got Harrison Fagan of LakersNation.com and Locked On Lakers, and Anthony Irwin of Lakers Outsiders and Locked On Lakers. Guys, thanks so much for hopping on and helping me break through all this Lakers news.
Yeah, it's always fun to do these monthly crossover episodes because, it's like I say every time. It's nice to have someone here who's not Anthony.
I was going to say the same thing, but Harrison always steals my stuff.
Well, yeah, I guess we should remind everybody that the way this works, our monthly crossover show, is we're going to start here on the Lakers Nation podcast, and then the second part 2, is going to be over on Locked On Lakers. So you're going to want to make sure that you check out that second part as well. Guys, the Lakers season is winding down, but you know what? I've actually been thinking a lot about soccer lately. And I know that's random, that's not part of our show and everything, but here's my connection here. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but the LA Galaxy, they just signed a huge superstar, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Incredible signing, big time news. This is like the second coming of David Beckham to Los Angeles. I mean, this is a superstar level player that they brought in, even though he's aging. And everybody's been talking about how badly you need superstars in LA, and it just kind of drives home the point that the Lakers right now do not have a superstar. So I want to talk a bit about what the steps are going to be like for them to land a superstar. Do we think one is coming this summer? Does it matter that much for the Lakers, or is that their brand already so established that they can be okay without a superstar for a little while? A lot to go over, but what's your general take on the Lakers' lack of a superstar right now, and do you think one's coming soon?
Well, to keep building off of your point about the Galaxy, they've always had at least one superstar, right? Like at least in the American game. I mean, the worldwide game, they're never going to be able to acquire a Messi or a Ronaldo or anything, but they've always had Landon Donovan. They had David Beckham, and it was like Robbie Keane for a bit, and then now Ibrahimovic. And I think they've I think it was really smart on their part, especially with LAFC coming in. They kind of recognized, look, this is the tried and true brand that works in Los Angeles, is building off of superstars. You get the superstars in-house, and you make everything else work from there. And so the Lakers, I think, have kind of gotten away from that, and I think it was as much an after effect or a byproduct of the situation around them. They had a great run with Kobe. They had a great run with Pau and Odom and Shaq before that, and they had to rebuild at some point. Unfortunately, it's taken a lot longer than I think even they hoped for, and especially the fans thought was going to come. And I kind of think they're reaching the end of that rope of like, okay, we really need to get a superstar in here at some point.
Yeah, I think the idea that the Lakers need a superstar, like I've seen some pushback on social media that's outdated, that the fans are smart enough now that like they don't really necessarily need that as long as they see progress forward as a team. And I think that whatever progress the Lakers make, however they make it, whether it's with a star coming or it's with these young guys continuing to grow, I think that people will accept it. But I do think that there is something to be said for like the more casual fans that just kind of like, they watch a Laker game every 2 weeks, like they keep up with box scores, they just like, but the Lakers are their favorite team. There is something to be said for the enthusiasm among that kind of larger demographic of having that superstar on the roster, that person that they can brag to their friends about, that they know is one of the best players in the league. I do still think that there's some value for the team in that, even if, if the Lakers kind of climb back up to the top and it was without a top 10 player, say, like, I still think that people would be excited for it. I just don't know that there would be as much general excitement throughout, like, the world.
Sure, yeah. And going back to the Galaxy, I mean, I think that the game they're going to play next weekend on March 31st, LAFC against the LA Galaxy, and it's going to be at StubHub Center, and they're going to be taking Zlatan's supposedly going to be taking the field for the first time. I think that's going to be the highest rated MLS game of the season. I think that's going to draw tons and tons of viewers. Are the Lakers in that situation, or do you think that LA Laker basketball is so ingrained into Southern California and around the world that they're going to get fans no matter what? Or is there kind of a point where the viewership starts to drop off if they don't have that star player?
So I think we saw a test of this a couple years ago when the Clippers, or over the last few years before this one really, when the Clippers were pretty clearly like head and shoulders above the Lakers in terms of how good their basketball team was. And I remember the first year that happened when they had Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, everybody's like, oh, it's going to be battle for, like all the local media, oh, it's going to be battle for LA. Like there's going to be fans on both sides. But I think that we've seen, at least locally, the fandom is so ingrained that I don't know that you like, especially now that the Clippers can't even make inroads because they're terrible again. Like, I don't think, or at least they don't have a super marketable team, even if I think their record is better than the Lakers right now still, right. But they don't have a super marketable team. It's not a bunch of guys that people have heard of. I don't think that they're going to make any inroads there. So I think they kind of blew their opportunity to do that. And so, I mean, obviously, if those, like, there's been some scuttlebutt. I remember when Jerry West was hired, he's going to try and get them to sign these big name free agents. But barring something like that, which like
and LeBron was having none of that. Are those guys really going to go to the Clippers? I don't think so. And so, barring something like that, I don't really think that I think we've seen the Lakers brand tested, and I don't think that these people are going to drop off. They would have to stay down for probably another like 5 to 10 years, I think. Yeah, I think it all kind of comes back to the teams that we're talking about, the Galaxy and LAFC. Now, the Galaxy have a bit of a step up on LAFC, but the newness and novelty, and I think LAFC has done a really good job of putting itself at the forefront of soccer moving forward in LA. But, like the Chargers and the Rams moved to Los Angeles at the same time. And you kind of saw that battle for territory on there. And it looks like the Rams are going to win that running away. And the Lakers, I think, had such a head start over the Clippers. And the Clippers are such an inept organization and have been for the entirety of my lifetime and going back even further beyond that I think the Lakers had, I don't think we were ever really going to worry about LA being a Clippers town. That was always a laughable talking point that, SportsCenter got ratings off of it, but nobody who ever thought about it seriously thought it was possible.
I think it was just the local media trying to argue their way into getting to cover the Clippers more because they were more entertaining and better at that time. And they were like they're like, let's gaslight this into existence. But
the problem there though is that like somehow people, the Clippers were turning people away at the door. like the Clippers wouldn't welcome any.
But like that their bosses
they could possibly get.
That their bosses would want to send them there because there would be people interested. You know what I mean? Not that the Clippers would turn them away.
Right. It's just the thing with the Lakers is look. I think the other thing too here is, as much as we want to talk about, how much rope they have and all of this stuff with the fan base and with the city, I think like they should maybe want to just start producing without having to worry about doomsday as a scenario, right? They should maybe, they should sign a superstar sooner than the apocalypse sets in and the Clippers actually start getting traction in the city. And let's say the Clippers somehow manage a rebuild before the Lakers do, right? And after trading away Chris Paul, after trading away Blake Griffin, and they hit the ground running, they make this lottery. I think they have 2 lottery picks coming up this year, their own and Detroit's. And so if they manage this rebuild more quickly than the Lakers, I still don't think we're ever looking at a scenario where the Lakers are not, that Los Angeles isn't heavily a Lakers town. But you are going to start seeing some actual legitimate frustration that all right, how did they manage to do this twice? How did they manage to make 2 playoff contender, borderline title contenders before the Lakers were able to recover from the post-Kobe era? That's that's where I think you start, not worrying, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind.
Yeah, see, I look at it as, kids that are growing up right now, right? It's been, 5 years, 6 years since the Lakers have been in the playoffs. And with that being the case, you've got, for a kid, for a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, that's a long time. That's half their life. So, I've got memories of watching the Lakers growing up, watching with my dad and watching championship teams and watching Magic Johnson fly up and down the floor and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's skyhook and all that. The youth today, though, aren't being exposed to Lakers greatness like that, to great Lakers teams. So do those kids then grow up as fans of other teams, other organizations? Does that change things? So I think that's the danger, that you get an entire generation growing up that may not necessarily be Lakers fans, even if their parents are.
Yeah, well, it's like our friend Daniel Berge always says, there are 8-year-olds right now that haven't seen the Lakers win a title. So
those poor 8-year-olds.
Yeah, those
getting ready for second grade and tying their LeBron shoes, and they're thinking to themselves, "Am I ever going to see this?"
They're practicing their threes like Steph Curry.
I think it would take, because kids are always going to be fans of whatever players are good when they're growing up, and then I think start to gravitate more towards the local team if that team's really good, or when they get a little older and they get more regional pride, or it's people start making fun of them for being bandwagon when they get a little bit older. But right now, of course, the reason I keep bringing up the Clippers getting that's the doomsday scenario of them getting a superstar, is because if they got somebody they're not going to get Steph Curry, but if they had somebody like that on that level that kids were going to get excited about and start wearing his jersey at a young age, like they do, I'd see plenty of fans and plenty of kids in Southern California walking around in Curry jerseys or Klay Thompson jerseys or Kevin Durant stuff. If the Clippers got somebody like that, then I think maybe then it's time for the Lakers to worry a little bit about losing some of the local market. But unless that happens, I don't really see that transfer starting to come, because you still have these parents that are going to be a lot of parents aren't going to be taking their kids to Clippers games. They're going to be taking them to Lakers games. And so that's the positive association that they're going to have growing up.
Agreed. Yeah. Los Angeles has been a Lakers town forever, and I think it's going to take a lot for it to transfer over to any other team, or even for other sports to pull people away from the Lakers. But there are a lot of options in Southern California, a lot of different teams that you can root for. But still, hopefully the Lakers will get back on top soon, or back to the top of the league soon, so they've got a team that kids can root for, and we'll have a whole new generation of Lakers fans coming up. We're going to take a quick break to talk about Stamps.com. These days you can get just about anything online and on demand. Did you know you can even get postage online with Stamps.com? Well, you can. With Stamps.com, you can print real U.S. postage for any letter or any package right from your home office. All available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, when it's convenient for you. Stamps.com will even send you a digital scale so you can weigh your letters and packages and print the exact amount of postage every time. And it's so easy to use too. Just click, print, mail, and you're done. Stamps.com is a no-brainer. Stamps.com will save you so much time. You can access all the services of the post office right from your desk. It's never been easier to send out your letters and packages. Here at Lakers Nation, we get super busy because the Lakers always have something going on around them. So we rely on Stamps.com to print out shipping labels, to send out our prizes and all of our mail, and it makes it so easy. I've even worked out a special offer with Stamps.com for my listeners that includes a 4-week trial plus postage and a digital scale without long-term commitments. All you have to do is go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in Nation. Again, that's click the microphone at the top of the homepage, type in the word Nation. Okay, Stamps.com, enter that promo Nation. Anyway, let's move on. There's one guy that I want to talk about today that I'm actually writing a piece for LakersNation.com about him right now, and that's Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I've been really impressed with the way he has played in 2018. Since we hit January, he's been pretty darn good, and I was actually shocked to find out that he has actually shot at worst, his worst month was 45% from three in January, February, and March. And I think he's up to 47% from three right now in the month of March, which is incredible. He's playing really, really well heading into a contract year. What are you guys' thoughts on KCP at this point? I know a lot of people were down on him earlier, especially when he had that rough month of December. But where do you see him at right now?
Well, if you listen to Anthony, the Lakers have already found their next superstar. They already have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
Unreal. I think he's done enough to warrant, like, so heading into this year, you were kind of thinking maybe KCP sticks around as a further favor to LeBron. You know, the like everywhere LeBron goes, he has to have at least one clutch client with him there. Mm-hmm. Right? That's at least one. You know, Cleveland has turned into, you know, the
team clutch,
the Cleveland, the Cleveland Clutchaliers, right? That's kind of what they become. It's like, but like I think what KCP's play has done is make it so that if he does earn another contract, it'll be on the basis of his own play, on earning it by his own. I think he's been very good at a tough position. Like, I was trying to think of shooting guards. Would you guys have him? I think I would have him among the top 10 shooting guards, maybe 15 shooting guards in the league, you know, that just play shooting guard. I think the Lakers could do worse. They could definitely do worse.
He, just for his shooting alone, they could do a lot worse.
They could do a lot worse with somebody on their own roster right now. Like, if they keep Isaiah Thomas over KCP, I'd be a little annoyed. I'd be a little tweaked. And now Harrison would argue that the actual superstar that the Lakers want to keep around is Isaiah Thomas. But I think KCP, like, look, he works really well, and he gives Josh Hart. I'm a little dubious of having Josh Hart to step up and be the starting shooting guard next year. A lot of people are kind of riding that train. I think that's a great way to have somebody who outperformed zero expectations this year come in and fall short of great expectations next year. So I think if they do keep KCP around on, say, like a 1 year or a 2 year deal, then that gives Josh Hart enough time to grow and develop into that starting shooting guard a lot of people think he can be. And that's, again, you know, that's without mentioning how good KCP himself and how young KCP himself, the player in person, actually is.
Yeah, he's like, a year and a half older than Josh Hart, I believe. So he's younger than a lot of people realize.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I remember when the Lakers brought him in, there was that whole thing, like Magic was laughing that, like, he was considered a veteran. He's in, like, his fourth year.
Right. I mean, I think everybody ages in Detroit a lot longer, a lot faster than other NBA players. But coming out here to the West Coast, I think has really done a lot for him. And look, I think I'm not going to endorse the stuff that he went through legally. But I do think it says something that he went through that and seems like grew from it, played through it, and came out a better player on the other side of it. You know, that in and of itself is pretty. And it's something that you can kind of look up to a little bit.
Yeah, and I looked this up while you guys were talking, but you mentioned where he ranks in the league. Among guards, he is 15th in the league in 3-point percentage. And so, like, that's pretty good. That's even including that horrendous December month. Mm-hmm. And that's also including, like, a lot of point guards. Like, I'm looking, and guys like that I'd consider mostly just shooting guards, just off of a quick look, he's like 4th or 5th. And so that's pretty good. And you need that type of floor spacing from that spot, especially when you have your point guard is Lonzo Ball. And he, you know, if he starts to show that he can shoot better next season, then that's great. But right now he hasn't shown that. And so you probably want somebody else that can really shoot it in that backcourt spot alongside him.
Mm-hmm.
So, Anthony, you said that you would keep KCP over Isaiah Thomas. Harrison, we're not sure where you stand on that just yet. But with the Lakers having these big three free agents, KCP, Brook Lopez, and Isaiah Thomas, would you keep KCP also over Brook Lopez? If you had to pick just one of the three, would KCP be the guy to get the nod in your mind?
All you know, earning potential being the same?
Yes.
Okay, so I would probably keep Lopez around because, in my opinion, I like his fit alongside Randall. It allows Randall to be the small ball 5 for shorter stretches because Lopez is a legitimate 5, but it's not by much. I really like what KCP brings to the table, and I would like to see it. It's kind of unfortunate that Lonzo got hurt and was hurt for as long as he was, and that really this Lakers team has been kind of dinged up for as long as they've been. But I'd really like to see how KCP grows alongside Lonzo. I just think I would like for him, you kind of need somebody to be a little bit more creative in attacking off of the dribble alongside Lonzo because Lonzo can't really do that for himself. But just, you know, a defensive backcourt of KCP and Lonzo to me, and you add to that KCP shooting, that's something you can really build off of. And obviously, if we're talking about these guys, it means the Lakers didn't do what
the summer went very wrong.
Right. Yeah. Like you kind of, Paul George would be my preference over KCP and
oh, really?
Oh, well, slightly. Well, I don't know, Harrison, if that's the case with you and Isaiah Thomas. Like that's
yes, believe it or not, I would take Paul George over Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, but I would be perfectly fine having CPR a 1-and-1 option kind of thing. Have him come off of the books at the same time as Deng, and then really hit that summer of 2020? Is that what it would be? Hit that summer of 2020 hard with Lonzo a little bit more fully developed. Randall fully developed at that point, Ingram closer to fully developed, and you see what the Lakers can become at that point. That's plan B, in my opinion.
So before we wrap up here, last question, I want to talk a little bit about Ivica Zubac. He was kind of the guy last year. I mean, he was a young player that a lot of people were excited about, and yet this season he's gotten on the floor a bit more here in the second half. He hasn't been spending his entire time in the G League like he was in the first half of the season, but still, against the Memphis Grizzlies the other night, the Lakers had 8 total players, and yet Zubac still only played 4 minutes. Now, a lot of that was matchups, but still, he just hasn't really shown a lot of growth from last season. Is this a guy that has a long-term future with the team, or is he just kind of a placeholder right now until Thomas Bryant really gets going? What's your take on his situation?
I think and Anthony, I don't want to speak for him, but I think he agrees with me on this, is that the latter, that he is a placeholder for Thomas Bryant at this point, who it looks like it's pretty clear fits at least based off of what we've seen from both of them so far. And for Thomas Bryant, that's mostly been in the G League, to be fair. But his 3-point stroke just makes him such a better fit, I think, for the modern game. And he's just a little bit smaller while still having traditional big size, and just a little bit quicker. And he can just he seems to move a little bit more fluidly, and like his shot looks a lot better. Like it's not just like his percentages, it just looks more repeatable to where it's not like a fluke type thing. And the Lakers have been kind of giving him more of a green light in the G League than they've even given Zubac to go out there and shoot it. And he's been like Zubac was good in the D League / G League last year, but Thomas Bryant has been like arguably the MVP of the G League this year, or he's been up there. And so I think Zubac could have a really great summer and have a really great training camp and force his way back into the Lakers' future plans. Like, that's totally possible. Young players have up and down years all the time at the beginning of their career, where like they show a little bit and then they kind of hit a wall and they have to make some adjustments and then they come back up. But right now it's not looking very good for Zubac, I would say.
Yeah, I'm fine with Zubac not being a Laker next year. Like, it doesn't make any sense for the Lakers to have 2 roster spots devoted to a backup center that might work out, right? Like, maybe like all things have to kind of work out for Thomas Bryant to be the backup center that the Lakers are hoping he can be, and all things have to work out for Zubac to fill that role. And it's kind of like doubling down on 15 at the blackjack table. Like, what's your end game there, And so with Zubac, I just think I didn't think it was a great sign that he came into Summer League. It looked like out of shape. It didn't look like his conditioning got any better over the course of the year. I thought Luke Walton was pretty obviously annoyed and frustrated with Zubac in that Memphis game, and I think that had a lot to do with I don't know if it was energy or softness. Like, I don't remember Zubac. Like, remember Harrison? We would always hear people talk about playing against Zubac in practice, and the one thing they would always take away from it was like, wow, this dude is big. He's really hard to move. Yeah. And this year, for whatever reason, every little contact sends this dude flying, or sends this guy on a path where he can't finish at the rim, or he can't grab a rebound in traffic. And look, if one of his big assets is actually size, and he's getting bodied around, I don't know what he brings to the table, and like you said, I think growth isn't linear, and maybe this is just a down year, and maybe not being a Laker next year might, light a fire under his rear that makes him a better player long term. But I just don't think it's worth it at this point to gamble on that growth when frankly I think he's regressed. Like, it'd be one thing if he showed even a little bit of growth this year, but I think he's objectively a worse player this year than he was last year.
No, and I agree with that. And I think the other thing, too, is that Thomas Bryant, the Lakers don't need him necessarily to come in and set the world on fire and be a starter or be like a traditional full-time backup like you would think about at the center position. They need him to play like 8 to 10 minutes a game if they re-sign Randall, because they're going to be playing him a fair amount at backup 5 when he's not playing the 4. And they'll probably, they aren't going to have Thomas Bryant, unless something that really doesn't work out, be the starter next year, or something works out really, really well, be the starter next year. So they need maybe 8 to 10 minutes from him in a realistic world. And the way that he's played in the G League so far, even with some defensive mishaps, I don't see any reason why he couldn't be pegged for that type of rotation role next year.
Definitely. Things aren't looking great for Zubac right now, but like you guys said, I'm not really ready to write him off just yet. I think there's still some potential there, but he is going to have to pick things up with Thomas Bryant breathing down his neck, because that guy has looked pretty darn good. Let's wrap things up right there for today. We'll head over to the Locked On Lakers podcast. Guys, make sure you go check that one out. We're going to be talking about the Lakers draft pick that they're getting from the Cleveland Cavaliers, as well as a number of other topics. So make sure you go head over there. My guests today were Anthony Irwin, who you can find him on Twitter at Anthony Irwin LA, and Harrison Fagan, who you can find at HM Fagan. Guys, thanks so much for joining me, and looking forward to starting up the second half of the show over on Locked On Lakers.
Hey, thanks for reading my act correctly. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Trevor. These are always fun.
All right, guys, that's it for this show. Make sure you head over to LakersNation.com for all the latest breaking Lakers news, and Stamps.com. Go ahead and use that promo code NATION. My name is Trevor Lane, and this has been the Lakers Nation podcast. See ya.